Welcome back, everyone. I am saying goodbye to spring and summer, to earth tones and bright greens. This doll for me represents the welcoming of the season of the witch, because I am more than ready for cooler days and softer nights, not to mention Halloween. Instead of traditional earth tones and bright colors you usually see in cottagecore, I used light blues, grays, and pinks to evoke the feeling of a kind of nighttime witch. Her colors made me think of Cinderella. The pinks and blues in the scene where she meets her fairy godmother. This witch, however, has an edge to her, like Yubaba and her sister from Spirited Away. I hope you see that coming through in her final design. Let's get started. I used this Rainbow High Luna Madison body with this Monster High Mousades King head. I love the extra long nails on this doll. She gives me the exact creepy, witchy vibes I'm going for. The gray colors of the skin are not exact, but I get them pretty close in the end. Some of these accessories I didn't end up using in the final doll, and the fabric for her cloak is more of a powder blue rather than the teal that you see here. I got most of these fabrics from a local sewing machine repair store in my hometown. Shout out to Maggie's Sewing and Vacuum in Fort Collins. The doll's head has a subtle blue tinted shimmer that cannot be removed with acetone. To unify the body and head, I used the blue color shift paint from Folk Art to create a similar shimmer all over her skin. It actually helped to match the different grays on her head and body as well. Nifty trick for unifying the colors. A little tip when using acrylic paint only on a face-up or a doll is to use very thin coats. I watered down this color shift paint in order to get nice even coats that didn't show any brush strokes. You want to do the same thing when you're doing the face-up as well. You start with thin, even coats, water them down, and just work in layers. It really helps you get a smoother result at the end with the face. Who are your favorite witches? Comment down below. Mine are definitely Willow from Buffy, Elphaba, Susie and Madame Blanc from Suspiria, and probably the Witch of the Waste from Howl's Moving Castle. She's just so sassy. Her hair is the same kind of brushed out charcoal yarn I used on my Catherine doll. I thought it would help keep her color palette consistent if it were gray rather than black or brown. I used my favorite Weldon Bond glue to create wefts, then glued those onto the head. I ended up not having enough of the dark gray, so I used a cool silver streak right at the front. I didn't record all of it because it was tedious and I was having trouble with the styling. I like how it came out though. I did paint her ears, hand and toe beans, and her cute little mousy nose off camera. It was just easier to do before going into the hair. I went back and forth on what kind of dress I wanted her to have. Originally, I was planning a little overall dress, very traditionally cottagecore, but in the end I went with a strapless dress, something a little more daring underneath her cloak. I had this mesh fabric that I salvaged from a Barbie skirt, and it worked perfectly as another layer over her dress for a little more fancy detail. I used Requiem Art Designs pattern for cloaks. Their doll patterns are some of the best out there. I ended up stitching the cloak with the same gold thread from my Lisbeth doll. That one is always so sparkly and nice to use. I decided the accents would be gold on this to contrast nicely with the blue that would be the overlayer of her outfit. This pink and gray fabric is so pretty and unique. It almost looks like either dappled lighting or bursts of flowers or, I don't know, patterns and rock formations. It's really cool, and I really enjoyed using it. I didn't end up using the burlap ribbon. I did consider at one point doing a kind of crossed boob hammock that didn't pan out, but I decided in the end to have this kind of folded, creased V formation for the bodice. And I ended up loving how it looked. It looked just edgy. I ended up lacing with some golden beads this embroidery floss, this lovely light pink. That was the other accent color to go with the pink of the dress. And I ended up using that as a closure in the back. And I tacked down the little folded sections of the bodice of the dress. Sometimes when sewing doll clothes, you need to add strategic folds or add some weight to places to make it lay the way that you want it to. And sometimes just tacking that down with a couple stitches is really the way to go. I really love the addition of the mesh fabric. I was so happy that I found it in my stash. The swirls on it really just look magical and so pretty, which is exactly what I'm going for. What I really liked about the clothes was the fact that I could layer and that I could take away pieces and add pieces, and that you would have a different outfit every time. I gave her a cute little Cinderella-inspired headband, and the prettiest thing about the blue fabric is that the stars on it are actually gold and they actually sparkle. And to add onto that, and to cover up the messy stitching on the ends, I added little gold stars to either side of the headband. They're just little nail art decals, but they're in a really pretty shiny gold, and they work perfectly for this. The other jewelry and rings that I add to her later on are also nail decals, and those are some of the most perfect doll jewelry accessories that you can find out there. I was looking up ancient Roman terms for witches, just to get an idea of the kind of title I could give her, and the one I liked the most was Venifica. So her name is Venifica Tatty, and Tatty is actually homage to a character in Little Dorrit, Charles Dickens' book. Tatty Coram was her full name, but I just always liked the name Tatty for a cottagecore witch. This face-up was a challenge for me. I don't know whether I was just having an off day or if it was her face mold giving me trouble, but I had to redo it several times, which is it's just the way that it goes sometimes, and you kind of just have to roll with it. Sometimes you need to step away. I'd say the first most important rule before you start crafting of any kind is to eat something beforehand, because if I don't eat something and I start crafting, my hands start shaking and I can't get the detail that I want. So I always recommend go and eat something, go and drink a lot of water, take care of yourself first. It's something I need to remind myself of daily when I craft. I went back and forth on whether I wanted her eyes to be a really pretty brown color or if I wanted them to be a shade of blue. I think I went for a combination of both, like a mystical kind of look, like Aurora's dress in Sleeping Beauty. It's between pink, it's between blue, it color shifts, of course. That's kind of what I wanted her eyes to be like. I wanted them to be neither one nor the other. So when you're doing a face-up with all acrylic paints, you need to find the exact ratio of water to paint that you're comfortable with. So that it does seep into the crevices that you want, but also isn't just so watery that it's just gonna make a complete mess. And that's the happy medium that you need to find when you're doing this. And it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of work. I've done over 80 face-ups in my quote-unquote doll customizing career. And it really just takes practice. I'm so much better now than I was even a few months ago, or a year ago. It really just takes practice, and I want to encourage anybody out there who's thinking about this, like, please do it. And you are going to mess up, and you need to be okay with that. because it's really the only way that you can grow is to do something and then, do something else. Then look back on what you did and see how you can improve. I think that's really the only way to improve at anything, is to look back at your work with kind eyes, not with overly critical eyes, with kind eyes, and see, oh, I'm doing this better than I was a year ago, or I'm drawing eyes better, or I'm making them look like they have more expression. It's the same way with drawing and illustrating for me, because I love to illustrate. I love doing comics and stuff. And I am 100% much better than I was even a year ago. And check out my Instagram if you want to see any of my illustrations. So this is the point I got to where I was debating, like, oh, is she going to have red eyes? Is she going to have purple eyes, blue eyes? I really was undecided, so I decided to tone them down with a little bit of gray, keep them on the cooler side with just a hint of warmth to them. After her eyes had dried, I added a little more depth to her lips, I added her catch lights, and then off camera I decided to add little shimmery sequins to her eyes with just a touch of glue. And that really gave her a whole new magical sparkle. I hope you all enjoyed my video. I do have both a Patreon and a Ko-fi now. Both Tatty, this doll, and my previous doll, Tanya, will be up for sale. Please join my Patreon and you will be the first to know when these are going up for sale. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and click the bell button and leave me a comment. Please tell me who your favorite witch is. Now, as spooky season is beginning, I am going to have some Halloween dolls coming soon. One of them is a nice little treat, and the other, well, let's just say he likes to play games. See y'all next time.